Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed the country's Air Force commander, Mykola Oleschuk. This just a day after the Ukrainian military reported that an F-16 fighter jet had crashed and its pilot had died while repelling a major Russian strike. Volodymyr Zelensky has also said in his evening address that he is grateful to all military pilots. He did not give a reason for the dismissal, but mentioned that the personnel must be protected and that there was a need to strengthen the command level. The dismissal, of course, came on the same day that Oleschuk had criticized a member of parliament of Ukraine for her claims that the F-16 that was downed by a Patriot air defense missile. Now, Mariana Buzlaya, the deputy head of the Ukrainian Parliament's Defense Committee, cited unnamed sources for her claim. Now, she also demanded punishment for those who were responsible for the error before his dismissal. Now, the former commander did not directly deny that the F-16 fighter jet had been hit by a Patriot missile, but went on to state that partners from the United States were helping in the investigations and that no one is covering anything up in the aftermath of the F-16's crash. He further wrote on his Telegram channel that a detailed analysis is being conducted into why the F-16 fighter jet went down. Now, Oleschuk has also accused the Ukrainian Member of Parliament of trying to defame the Ukrainian Air Force and discrediting the US arms manufacturers. He hoped that she faces legal consequences for her claims, is what he said. In response, shortly after the dismissal order was published, the Ukrainian Member of Parliament, Buzlaya, posted on her social media handle that truth indeed shall prevail. Now, in the past few months, Mariana Buzlaya has constantly been at the center of discussions and scandals. She has repeatedly criticized the Ukrainian armed forces and in particular the former commander-in-chief Valery Zelensky. However, she has in the past also suffered backlash in the form of comments that have argued that a 35-year-old woman simply does not have the expertise to critique the command and the commanders of the Ukrainian armed forces. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what, of course, is happening in this huge controversy that has now broken out, we're being joined by Professor Peter Kuznick, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. He's a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at the American University. Professor Kuznick, this is a controversy that I'm sure is going to be talked about for many days to come now. An F-16 fighter jet given by the Western allies to Ukraine goes down. One of the top Ukrainian pilots is killed. Initial reports indicated perhaps it was some kind of a technical failure. Later, a Ukrainian member of parliament put out a statement saying that this was a case of friendly fire, where a Patriot missile may have brought down the F-16 fighter jet due to coordination issues that had not been sorted out. What's your take on this?
Inside Ukraine, this looks very bad right now. The pilot, nicknamed Moonfish, was a hero. He is one of very few Ukrainian pilots who are adequately trained to fly the F-16s. So the fact that they lost Juice, who was previously the face of the program, in an accident before, and now they've lost Moonfish, is a serious emotional, psychological blow to the Ukrainian military. Whether it was an accident because of mechanical failure, whether it was shot down by a Patriot missile by mistake, whether it was the Russians who shot it down, this is a big blow. Ukraine has promised about 65 of these F-16s. Now, you have to remember that the F-16 was introduced back in 1978. It has already been retired by most militaries and replaced by F-35s, which are much more modern, more capable planes. The Russians have more modern aircraft that are superior to the F-16s. So even though a lot has been made about the delivery of the F-16s, these are not some super weapon that's going to suddenly turn the tide in Ukraine's favor. Also, normally training would take more than a year, but they've been speeding this up to 6 months or even less. So there are very few skilled, trained pilots inside Ukraine. And the fact that they've already lost two of the most prominent is a serious blow to the Ukrainian military. At the same time, they're suffering so much loss on the Eastern Front.
Right.
So things are not looking good. And Zelensky, in a somewhat desperate move, has now fired the head of the Air Force.
Absolutely, indeed. And also, it's very embarrassing considering that the F-16 fighter jet, you say, of course, it's an old plane, but it is still one of America's war horses that has been very effective for the Americans in many of these theaters of war. But this time around, it's against a different opponent. Now, Ukraine has been asking for more than 100 F-16 fighter jets to be sent across for them to be used in this Ukrainian war theater. Do you think the Americans will now be a little reluctant if more F-16s are to be lost on the battlefield?
Well, the price of an F-16 now is around $70 million. So these are not inexpensive planes to begin with. The Americans have been reluctant, but there's a lot of pressure on the Biden-Harris administration to ramp up delivery, not just delivery of advanced weapon systems, but permission to use them to strike deeper inside of Russia. So that pressure is mounting. There's a lot of speculation that Biden will change the order to not use some of these weapon systems like the ATACMS inside of Russia. The danger, of course, is that escalates the war. We don't know where Putin's red lines are. Putin considers this to be a NATO operation in terms of this providing the planes, training the pilots, giving them the intelligence that they need. So every time we escalate on this ladder, we get closer and closer to a real war between Russia and NATO and the possible use by Russia of nuclear weapons. So that's what has many of us alarmed.
Right.
But Ukraine, despite their incursion into Kursk, is suffering heavy defeats in the Pokrovsk area, and it looks like the Russians are about to take all of the Donbass, which would be a major step forward in their effort to defeat Ukraine.
Absolutely, indeed. Professor, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us and getting us all those insights there.
My pleasure.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.